Hey everyone, just a reminder, the first issue of Transylvania is out, so if you want to check it out and show your support, give it a read. The link is in the description down below. Hey everyone, how's it going? What can I say? King Shark is a shark. Created by Carl Kelso and Tom Grummett in the Page of the Sewer Boy in 1994, King Shark is kind of one of those characters that's both popular, but only comic fans actually know what he's about. Why? Because every time he shows up in other media, he's never the same. In the comics, he's actually pretty simple. His real name is Nanaue, and the son of a shark god, whose personality is kind of a fusion of a stereotypical beach bully and a 1980s wrestler with shark-based abilities. Interested really mostly in fighting and eating anyone who gets in his way. Now, of course, there are some changes down the line as other writers continue King Shark's story, showing he has some desires to belong and in a complex relationship with his father, and his relationship with the team Secret Six, and also later on the Suicide Squad during the New 52, where for some reason he became a hammerhead shark instead of a great white that we're all more familiar with. Seems simple, right? Well, for some reason, we've never seen that version. On the CW's Flash show, he's a marine biologist who is mutated into a shark hybrid who struggles with his monstrous half, like an aquatic version of the lizard. In the animated film, Batman Assault on Arkham, he's a killer croc-style mutant with a metal jaw who kinda has a personality similar to his comic book counterpart, though with a great fear of heights. Then there's a Harley Quinn show, who's a soft-spoken IT guy who's the son of a literal king shark in Atlantis who only goes savage when he smell or taste blood. Then we got the film Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, where he acts like a mindless merc who can only say, "King Shark is a shark," until the end of the film. By the way, that was apparently inspired by a running joke from an abridged series. Then we got Young Justice, where he's more like a Klingon. He's more focused on being a leader of his fellow shark people in Atlantis. And of course, we got the 2021 film The Suicide Squad, where he's just a big lovable goofball who just wants friends and people to eat. Which brings us to, what about Suicide Squad killed the Justice League? What about it? Anyway, that brings us to our latest comic, 2022's Suicide Squad King Shark, that was created to bring some synergy to the movie by putting King Shark in what I honestly was not expecting, a tournament arc. How does that turn out? Well, let's dive into Suicide Squad King Shark and find out. Warning spoilers. Our story begins in the city of Bloodhaven, where we meet essentially our POV character, Sean Sang, aka the street artist supervillain Defacer, who was first introduced by the writer Tim Seeley's Nightwing run back in 2017. There she ran a support group for former supervillains known as the Runoffs, and became Dick Grayson's love interest, and even had a storyline where she almost considered having kids with him. Unfortunately, Dan DiDio and Tom King stepped in and canned any further development, as they would shoot Dick Grayson in the head and start the much hated run where he went by Rick Grayson and was just kind of a pain. Unfortunately, in universe, no one told Sean, so she believed that Dick ghosted her, so she decided to get payback and defacing, like her name, his statue. Now, usually a crime like this would lead to either a fine or a community service, but because she's a repeat offender and a supervillain nonetheless, she ends up going to Bel Rev, aka the prison the Suicide Squad get recruited. Kinda surprised Dick wasn't able to help her avoid this. I mean, Sean reveals that he did explain everything to her. I guess we're all really wanting a street artist on the team. After telling her story and admitting she has anger issues to Harley, who at this point is both an inmate and a prison therapist, hey, saves money, she is mocked by fellow inmate Hot Take, and when she talks back, Sean ends up on her shit list. During lunch, Sean is eating alone until she is met by the shark of the hour, King Shark, who overheard Harley's session and wants to help her deal with her anger. Sean isn't interested in his help. As she leaves, King Shark's lunch begins to talk to him, telling him that it's time. At least it's not horse meat with bits of jockey meat. Sometimes after that, Hot Take attacks Sean in hopes of killing her, but King Shark comes in and eats her. Keep in mind, she was made of lava and he ate her like it was no problem. Kinda shows how he could go toe-to-toe with Superboy. Waller confronts Sean, telling her that she actually made a deal with King Shark's father. She could have him work for her on the squad and lock him up for what he did, but only if he comes to his sacred home every so often. And Sean is going because King Shark has grown a liking to her, so we'll be watching him for Waller, and if she doesn't, well, it's Waller. You know what's gonna happen. When King Shark meets his dad, it's less of a heartwarming reunion and more like a, you had your fun abroad, but it's time to work, as he wants his son to participate in a tournament known as the Wild Games, and to test him, his father has allowed a fellow aquatic villain Orca to fight King Shark. As the fight goes on, we learn that Orca, real name Grace Fallon, was actually part of Sean's support group and was dealing with people treating her like an animal. Unfortunately, she seems to embrace that and is having the upper hand, but in the end, King Shark is victorious and is allowed to continue further into the game. What are the wild games? The energy that contains all animals, the red, has to be cleansed and replenished, so the representatives of the red, the Parliament of Limbs, must pick champions from their respected animal species to fight out and decide who will be the most dominant. To help explain this, we are met by the representative of humanity, Vic Wayne, aka the Man King. With King Shark now there, the games can begin with the superhero Wanna Beast as the host, or Mr. Beast as he's introduced himself. So he's gonna give the fight profits to charity. But while the tournament begins, Waller is trying to find where Sean and King Shark have gone. Will she find them? Will Sean be able to find some peace in mind and freedom from the madness? And how will King Shark handle this tournament of animal royalty? Well, you're gonna have to read this to find out. This is a pretty fun comic that lets us get to know our favorite shark and give us closure for some supporting characters really need more love. Since, as I mentioned, the book was written by Tim Seeley, who last wrote these characters in his amazing Nightwing run. Probably be one of my favorites if it didn't end the way it did. Seeley also worked on comics from multiple different genres like the horror comic Hack and Slash, the very interesting Local Man, and surprisingly enough, even erotic comics with the erotic sci-fi comedy Money Shot. And though I haven't read the latter, I do recommend the formers, as he's shown to have mastered taking the basis of certain genres and worlds and bringing them into a situation that we don't normally see. In this case, we see the Red, a force as usually seen in more mysterious and otherworldly forces in stories like Animal Man, in a tournament arc straight out of an anime, which I'm a big fan of, and that tournament arcs were pretty standard in shonen anime like the Dragon Ball franchise or JJK, as it's a fun way to introduce new characters and put our heroes in situations that they might not be used to. Favorite arc, by the way, is a Dark Tournament arc from Yu Yu Hakusho. DC even did it again in Joshua Williamson's Damian Wayne's Robin book. And though I really like that book and I recommend checking it out, I think this comic handles it better since the book does get to focus more on the fights, which are pretty unique, along with expanding on the characters and world. As for the characters, we got our demigod fighter, King Shark. And though there's elements of his original incarnation as a battle-ready fighting machine who's ready to eat and kill anyone who gets in his way, he's also gotten older as he's become more isolated, and it's really getting to him. Now wanting to get back in touch with his humanity, this book reminds us that he was raised by a human mother who wanted her child to live and be happy like all kids, but unfortunately his father had other plans, as he forced him to be trained by Amanda Waller to become King Shark. Yeah, this book reveals Waller made him into a supervillain, which is a bit of a retcon, but an interesting one. During this tournament, he's tested to see if he can even keep his humanity, as he's forced to be like as he's been lately, but also find new ways to face enemies that he can't just punch or eat, truly seeing if he's worthy of his title as king. Next we have Sean, aka Defacer, and boy, she's seen better days. Starting off as someone who wanted to help people find their ways to someone who's lost herself. This is a woman who lost everything she built in her life due to one moment of anger, and she's kind of desperate to get that back in not so great ways. Though she has friends who want to help her, she winds up turning to someone who she barely knew, but because he's making her feel validated and feeling she doesn't need to improve herself, even when she's moments where she's clearly out of line, it feels easier for her. It's a serious topic, and I think Seeley did a pretty decent job tackling it without feeling like it's a betrayal of what he did before in his Nightwing run. It feels like a natural continuation of her story. Next, we got the Wall herself, Amanda Waller. As you expect from a woman who runs a Black Ops team of villains and makes deals with literal shark gods, she's a cold-blooded manipulator who will raise hell just to get what she wants. Though in this case, it's a bit more interesting as Waller is after King Shark, not because she sees him as a valuable asset, though that is a bit of the case, but it's mostly because she feels like she got screwed over by his father, and no one screws over the Wall. Like, she brings in the squad just to find him. It reminds us that Waller really is obsessed with being in control and will stop at nothing to still feel she is. Plus, the dolphin bit is hilarious. Next, we got the father of the king, the manipulator of the Wall, Shark God. And yeah, I know he's also gone by the name of Krondaka, but he goes by many names, so just gonna go by Shark God for simplicity's sake. He's kind of like a much harsher version of Poseidon from the Percy Jackson books. As you can guess from Nanawe's childhood, he's often cold to his son and cares very little for his own wants and desires, just focusing on him taking responsibility. There's only small moments where he shows some sort of care for his son, but up until the end, you can't tell if it's genuine or if he's only saying it because he is his blood. It leaves you guessing. Next, we got the Man King, one of our fighters and supposedly allies to our heroes, and when you first meet him, he comes off as a very kind, zen-like guy, but and this really isn't much of a spoiler since you can easily tell from his introduction representation that it's an act. He represents man, but not the best in man. He manipulates people like Sean to do what he says by saying exactly what you wants to hear, and gaslighting others, framing the other fighters, making people see them as just nothing but mindless monsters who will end humanity the instant they win. Sure, some are villainous like King Roach, but others we later see are not too hasty to mess with the balance. He's a good foil to King Shark, as while he's trying to regain his humanity and reconnect with people, Man King wants to surpass humanity and be worshipped. A pretty solid opposing foe. As for supporting characters like Orca, the Squad, Buana Beast, and some of the other fighters like Tiger Queen and the aforementioned King Roach, they're all good supporting characters and antagonists, and do get some great moments to shine, especially Orca and Buana Beast, who funny enough is also there to kind of acknowledge some of the issues that his character has, in particular the cultural appropriation and the white savior element his character became notorious for. Now Orca, like Sean, is wrapping up her arc that Seeley started, and it's pretty solid. We got Scott Collin on art and John Callis on color. And I'll admit, I'm not really a fan of Clone's art, as I feel the use of the lines tend to make it look too scratchy and a bit overcomplicated. But here it works as it gives a primal feeling to the characters, especially in the wild games, while Callis helps blend the colors that represent the modern world and nature pretty damn well, feeling perfectly balanced. But when certain colors do need to dominate, they're handled very well, like whenever someone has to use the power of the red. On a whole, I really dug this book. It's a fun tournament arc and a nice way to get newcomers into King Shark and meet some underrated characters. Sure, there are some story beats that you'll see coming, but it won't totally ruin your experience. So go into the wild and check it out. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates. And next time, we continue the themes of fighting to be the best in our next theme month, movie continuation month, with a comic that shows us that there should only be one movie. Later.